You're listening to the Light Over Time podcast with David Sargent and Korey Bartos. It is June 4th, 2023. What's going on, David?
Not a whole lot. Just drinking a latte.
Right on. What kind of coffee are you drinking?
Just a classic Guatemala. The fun thing about it is I grabbed an espresso machine from Goodwill today for $9.99, and it was nasty inside. I don't know if you saw my stories or not.
Not yet, no.
But it looked really good on the outside, but it was missing both the carafe and the manual. I figured it out, not an issue. It's only a $60 machine, but it was gross. I had to brush and lemon juice and vinegar and kafiza, all the holy trinity of cleaners for that kind of stuff. But I got it. It's flushed out, it's clear, and actually made a pretty decent espresso and latte.
Wow. All right. Yeah, that's pretty chaotic. We are shooting at an evening today, and it's a Sunday, and I work tomorrow, so I'm drinking a Two-Hearted.
All right. That's fair. Yep.
A little bit different. I'm done with the coffee for the day. I spent my weekend very quickly driving over to Livonia, dropping off an amplifier to get fixed, going up to Port Huron just for the night, and then going back to Livonia in the morning to pick up the amp and coming all the way back to Kalamazoo. So I am knackered.
All right.
Yeah, so what have you been shooting?
Literally only one reason I picked up my camera this week was to shoot one reel, and only because I felt like it had been too long since I made anything. And I'm realizing like, oh man, it's summer and I have so little time to do social media stuff because I'm actually like busy making things now.
Yeah. Was this week the first summer, what do you call it, farmers markets?
Yeah, pretty much. There was a couple last week, but I had a wedding to shoot, so I didn't get the full effect until this week. So
Gotcha.
Wednesday, excuse me. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I had my full summer markets, so it was great. Wednesday and Thursday were pretty good, and then Saturday was just jam-packed. I had like my second or third best day ever on Saturday.
Nice.
That would be yesterday. So, and we're still good. I still have like 20 bags of coffee, so I produced way more than I thought I needed, but it's actually not too bad.
Cool. Yeah. I spent a little bit of time this weekend shooting Pumpkin a lot because I was over in Port Huron, and that's my god dog. She's a sweet pitty. And when did I put this on this lens? Maybe 2 weeks ago, I started just like leaving my Moment Cine Bloom 10% on my 35 mil.
Yeah.
And I really love it. I like it more than my Pro Mist filter. I don't know what it is about it, but I especially like it for like the sun in the background. It blooms in a very nice way. Almost everything I've shot with it that was backlit, I've really enjoyed, which is surprising because I didn't historically I've used them for artificial lights, and when I knew I wanted to have like a slightly hazier, like cinematic look.
Sure.
But I adore it with natural light, especially with such a sharp lens. And yeah, it's been pretty wild. But you got a bunch of pupper photos, some photos of my buddy's son playing around in the backyard yesterday. And yeah, it's been good. Shooting a lot at work still, doing a lot of things, trying to get a giveaway going still and all that. So it's been mostly productive.
Cool. What do we got for today?
Today, I want to start with the new prompt. And I had a topic that was just a type of photography. And then I was like, that's boring. I want to leave a little bit more for interpretation. We have, 3 weeks or something to get an image. So this month's prompt is Unseen Worlds. And I'm going to let you do with that whatever you would like.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it'll be Unseen Worlds. So I am expecting to have even more challenge describing these photos when they come in and what's going on with them, but it should be really fun.
Yeah. I think the obvious for anyone who's listening who may want to try and tackle this, the obvious here might be something abstract, maybe macro, maybe, I don't know, maybe super zoomed in on something that, structures and lines and things like that inside of something bigger. But I would love to see what people think of outside of the box on this one. I don't know if I'm going to be outside of the box, but I'll still have fun with it.
maybe you get some repertoire images of a cartel drug deal going down, or
Oh yeah,
just
just outside of your normal world.
something
Sure.
something I never see. I don't know. I've never seen a cartel drug deal go down,
Unless we
so
have cartel members listening to us.
I don't know. That's probably who's going to send in the image of the cartel.
Yeah.
I don't have access to that, so
Sure.
but yeah, so I'd just have fun with it. If you didn't submit a photo last month and you were kind of like leery or whatever, we're by no means like trying to critique your guys' images. We just want to share some images. I think through us kind of talking through what we're looking at, you'll get more of an idea of how we look at photos, and how we like observe what we're seeing, and kind of at least bad vocabulary for descriptions. It's fun, and I think it'll be a blast to see what y'all come up with. So I'm going to start with the email in this description and in the show notes on the podcast stuff. You can submit whenever, and whatever gets put in by time we shoot the episode that we talk about them, those will go up. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had a weird moment this week on the Sony Alpha Reddit. I've been on the Sony Alpha Reddit, I think probably since before I originally had an A7S III, back when I first got my A7R4. And it's like mostly photo sharing there. There's some gear conversation and stuff like that, but people share photos. And the most awkward thing happened where I'm looking at this image, for me, clearly AI generated. And the person is saying it was shot with a A7R series camera, whichever model, with a Mark 1 24-70 f2.8 G Master. 1000% this image was AI generated. Like there was enough tells where it wasn't like it was like Mid-Journey 4. Like it was obvious that this had been generated. And it was just so weird to me to see like some people call it out, and how awkward it was that like people didn't want to just totally flame this kid, which is fair. Like I don't want to just like flame somebody for no reason, but it was straight. Like it was the first interaction with me watching and witnessing in real time somebody claiming that an AI generated thing was their image they took. And there was imperfect artifacts that were like clearly AI generated, and the entire thing was how you and I have spoken many times about how there's like some tales. There was all of that, plus it just was not clearly a photograph. Like it was not realistic enough to be a photograph. And I just thought it was so weird because this OP responded to a bunch of the comments, and then they were like, well, is it just heavy editing and stuff like that? And this person was really going after it. Like,
yeah.
And that was just mind blowing to me because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel. It felt weird. I was uncomfortable with the whole thing.
Yeah, that's strange. I can put some context around that. For astrophotography, there's a lot of purists out there who really don't like people who composite. And that's not strictly for astro, but it's very prevalent in astro communities, where you'll take, let's say, blue hour landscape, mix it with the same composition, different time of the night. Let's say the Milky Way comes into the sky in the background of the same exact composition. That's very technical, difficult to do, time consuming and tedious, and it's not low effort. It's much more work than just one or the other, right? But you get these purists out there who will aggressively call out people who composite. Like it's not also art, like it's not hard work. It's very strange. And we're diving into the world of AI kind of in the same direction, where there's these, I mean, you're on the other end of the spectrum here. You're calling out what is clearly not a photograph here. And it's just an awkward situation, right? We've got these communities that don't exactly all perceive things the same way. But it's weird because in Astro, you just explain yourself. And there are definitely situations where OP doesn't explain a thing. And if people are calling out a composite, and there's something nefarious about it, let's say like maybe this work doesn't actually belong to this person and they did something, or they just straight up stole artwork and tried to pose it as their own. You still have these arguments, but usually when someone does something as nefarious as that, they just don't respond. They're just trying to reap the karma points or whatever, right? And in your situation, they're responding and like super coming back at it,
Yeah.
as if it's absolutely a photograph, but you're talking about it being absolutely not.
It's fully
That's strange.
pathological, man. Like I was looking at it and I was like, I would be willing to bet all of my camera gear and my entire career in photography that this is like Midjourney 4, like just straight up. And I don't like, maybe it was just somebody like, I'm going to see if I can get them. But like, if that was the case after like 4 people called you out,
Yeah.
you failed. Like you failed that experiment. If it was like
If it was a social experiment, right?
if it was like a well-intentioned experiment where you were going to come out and say, okay, yeah, it's just AI. I'm really curious about this and
Right.
things passing. Because like there's been winners of photography competitions who have really well done AI.
Yep.
I want to make it clear that it's like really, really, really well done AI.
Yes.
Because I've seen some of those images and you're like, I'm upset that's not a photo, because this is the most egregious like thing when it comes to photography. And you know, if you are interested in this topic, you can find all of our other episodes where we kind of go over how we feel about AI in general. But I just thought that was weird, man. Like I don't like to see somebody who's like exhibiting behaviors of like a pathological liar just saying like, no, dude, this is my image. And it's like, it's not though, dude. It's just not your image. Like you didn't take it with the 24-70. You didn't take it in this place in the world.
Wow.
And it was fine. Like had it been real and the composition be the same, it was like very beautiful gold hour on like a intersection on a like town somewhere in Europe, it looked like. And I was just like, dude, there was artifacts and the lines on the road that were like the generated, like it just kind of mucks it to kind of look like a road in the bottom.
Yeah.
And then like the bricks were off. There was a little bit of like acute artifacting on basically all the dark textures. It was very obvious to me that it was
Can I play devil's advocate for a second on this?
Sure.
How can you describe to me like, you know, how heavily, if it was a photograph, how heavily edited did it look? Like super saturated, or because
if it was as though you would have used like Photoshop filters for like trying to make it look painterly or something, like there wasn't a single detail on the entire image that looked like it came from a camera to me.
Okay. Because if I was to play devil's advocate, I'm wondering if this person, for whatever reason, if it was a photograph, took the spot healing brush tool and just went nuts all over the place.
But it wasn't spot healing.
Okay.
It was like, I know what that looks like when you mess up with textures and stuff. It was mostly all together. It looked like a decent frame. If anything, maybe he used generative fill, but I don't think that was the case, man. There was no consistency in noise. Like I'm familiar enough with all of the aspects that it could be that like I sat there and I looked at it for probably 5 minutes and I read every comment and there was like 200 comments. And I was just feeling weird about it. That was it. I mean,
was there a comment from OP who said something like, "Hey guys, I see what you're saying. Here's what may explain why it looks this way"?
No,
what he might have done.
All of their replies were pretty short. Nothing like explanatory or anything like that. It was. I mean,
that's
it was
so strange.
It was freaking AI, dude. Like, which is fine, but it was just weird. I mean, Reddit's Reddit.
What if OP's AI? What if it's trying to pose as a human, commanded by some other human to do this?
Somebody has a Chat GPT API that they've tried to turn into a photographer in the Sony Alpha subreddit.
I mean, there's enough bots on Reddit to begin with.
I'm trying to see if I can quickly see it. If I just scroll through like it was probably more than 5 days ago now.
Oh, okay.
I think it was during the week when I was just up late one night. But anyway, I definitely don't want to flame this person, and I don't want to like
Sure.
just attack that thing. It was just to see that like pathology and like be certain. Cause like I'm the first person to go, I don't know, you know, crap. Like
Yeah.
I don't know nothing. What am I talking about? I'm very skeptical about how I feel, especially when I feel certain. When I feel certain about stuff, that's when I stop myself always and go, why are you so certain about this? Like, why are you so heated right now and so certain about this?
See, I
And
have a similar take. I stop myself and go, is it worth me even continuing this conversation? I'll like backspace an entire paragraph and just be like, it ain't worth it anymore. If I'm so
oh,
certain, it's like, I'm just done here.
oh, I almost never do it. I don't even reply to people on the internet. I just don't care. But
Yeah.
when I feel and like that's how I kind of have a check and balance for myself. If this happens with conversations with people sometimes. And
Yeah.
like when I want to jump on a conversation on somebody real fast, I'm like, why do I feel so strongly about this right now?
Hmm.
Like if I can justify that, and if after I justify it to myself, I think I have to continue the conversation. I have to educate this person or like tell them why I know for sure they're just like full of shit
Hmm.
or how they're just incorrect. You know what I mean? I don't want to just say it's like when people are being what they are. Okay, well I just saw a similar image from that night, so maybe I'll just give it like 5 more scrolls. But it was wild, man. That will lead well into have you, I assume you haven't because you've had a very busy weekend and a very busy week, but have you been able to play with generative AI's
No, not a
autofill yet?
bit. I've seen some stuff that people have posted, and I'm amazed on honestly. It's not, again, going into just the advancement, how fast things are moving. This is all based on Adobe's Firefly, right? Their like whole
I
AI
don't.
engine.
I literally don't know about the tech behind it through
Oh,
AI.
okay,
I
because
just
that's
or
what I
through
had read
Adobe.
about a month or so ago. Was that they
Sure.
were building out what they called Firefly to apply in different ways to all their programs. And I was curious if this was part of that rollout, and it probably is because this is some heavy stuff for Photoshop. But I've seen some great stuff. But no, I have not been able to play with it yet.
Yeah. So I had messaged David a couple days ago for those of you listening, and or I guess Friday probably. And I was like, oh, okay, hold on. So there's something that I've used a lot in Photoshop, which is when I just need a little bit of like more detail for the left, right, top, and bottom of an image because maybe I need copy or something on it. You could use the crop tool, make it larger, and use content aware fill. And historically, you got maybe a 15% chance of it like being just okay enough that you can also start doing some cloning yourself after it kind of fills the void and kind of fix it up to make it look relatively okay. I've done this with I did it with the Korey and Cruz banner where I had a relatively tight image of him and I on a beach, and I extended the beach probably like 15 20 meters left and right and made it just look like
Mm,
a really wicked beach because I just wanted a big like YouTube banner or whatever. And that was when it was still just content aware fill, and then I used some cloning to clean it up. And
sure.
it's been pretty decent for me in the past. But last episode I had talked about how I hadn't really seen anything super compelling with the generative fill, and I think that was because largely I was seeing a lot of content about people using like a lasso tool and trying to fill something and like or change something completely, like add hair and all this really really wild stuff. But you could take an image, get the crop tool and make a big white border around it. Then you can use like a marquee or a lasso around your image. You can invert that selection and then generative fill, and it does an incredible job, especially if you have a really shallow image where there's a lot of bokeh. That was where it really impressed me, where like you couldn't tell where your original bokeh started and it filled. Obviously, if you have a lot of textures and details, it's going to get pretty zany. You got to be careful about that. But man, if you're doing like a portrait and you just want to like fill it with like the woods behind it or something like that, I'm seeing a lot of awesome opportunity for it for how I would use it right now. Um, and a lot of the stuff I do is for content. It's going to be for products and stuff like that where I don't care if it's a comp. The stuff I do for work, I'll comp anything that I have to outside of what the actual product is. I don't like to show something that it's not. I don't even go in and clean up like dirt on guns in a certain way or whatever, just because I think it needs to be more authentic. But outside of that, I'm completely fine comping backgrounds and doing stuff like that because it's all just silly stuff. It's not like repertoire or, freaking documentary photography. And it's an incredible tool. It's super awesome. I was doing some flyers and I was able to just kind of make my image not so tight on several different images.
Yes. So when you showed me your like, here's the process of what it did and the result, it was pretty impressive. And I want to just differentiate for listeners who are going, wait, but haven't we had content aware, like crop, extend, that type of thing? Because that has been around for a long time. I want to say like CS5 or something implemented that. And I remember one of my very first like bigger paying jobs way back in 2012. I did a shoot for a charity golf event that had a specific aspect ratio they needed for prints afterwards. So I was shooting the whole day, 3x2, 50 mil lens probably, and it was just taking basically group shots of people all throughout the event. And at the end of everything, I got to the point where I realized at editing after the fact that I needed to crop these images and they needed to be printed at a very specific ratio. And the way I had shot them all was too tight. I could not do that crop without cutting off people's feet or head. So it was CS5 at that time, I believe, in 2012. Maybe my timeline is just there's a little wiggle room in there possibly, but I definitely remember being able to use that content aware extend, and that did an okay job only because it was mostly just trees and grass around their head and feet. This is different. What this did for you, from what I could see, was there was a couple of different like posts and signs of some kind, some actual objects, not just like natural things, where they were totally inside of the frame. And the old version of the content aware fill extend, whatever that's called, I can't remember, that only really worked within the new boundary. And this new AI version took stuff on the inside of the frame that certainly wasn't going to look good if it tried to extend those objects, and just eliminated them because it kind of just knew those are just distracting objects. Those can go away to make the whole thing look more natural.
All right,
that
so
was impressive.
Yeah, let me be more clear about how that process worked. So what you do, my selection wasn't the whole frame. I did like 75% of the frame was my selection, and then it inverted that. So the target that you were seeing, that was the wooden post, that was
included
that was actually inside the selection. It was because I didn't draw the border. But what you said still isn't incorrect, because I had an image that was taken on Zach's cell phone from another class I wasn't at, and it was somebody applying a tourniquet, and there was a car like on 1/10 of the frame on the left, and I extended that. It perfectly extended the entire berm, and it basically built an entire destroyed car. like a crumbled junkyard car from what looked like a broken window, like the corner of a rear broken window, and like it wasn't even into the car enough that it was through the tail light, and it basically just made it look like it was a totally slammed car. It was and it was a little janky. It wasn't perfect, but if you just looked at the image, you'd go, "Oh, it's like a junkyard car."
Wow.
So it is quite good. Something else that content aware fill would do if you were to do the same process. And then like the final image that I showed you, I went in and did the generative fill for a couple of rocks and some other stuff.
Yeah.
And made it like super clean. But say you'd have a relatively clean, maybe all grass bokeh background, like trees, green, mostly green and brown, mush, like 1:4 mush. And then you had a person, and that was the only thing in the frame that was good. But maybe in the back, even in the bokeh, there would be like a post, like you saw it. say your selection was right touching that post, and then you did content aware fill, it would do this weird, like almost no detail, just like the colors, and it'd just be like a mush. And it'd be awkward, like somebody took a big spot healing brush and just went bleh.
Yep.
And that's what content aware fill would do.
That's exactly what I remember.
Generative fill will like either turn it into like a frame, or turn it into like a post, like an actual wooden sign, or like it'll figure it out, and it'll actually add details to stuff where content aware fill never did. And I haven't even untapped the potential of this thing. If you're curious and you still don't kind of know what we're talking about, this is in the Adobe Photoshop 2023 beta. If you go into your Creative Cloud app, on the left there's a big menu, basically in the very bottom of the second or third section. It'll say beta apps, and you can download it, and it has this ability. But also, I didn't use any prompts. I still haven't played with, because you can add a dragon in the background or whatever, and it'll do stuff. I've only used it no prompt and generative fill.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of experimentation to do, but I'm pretty freaking impressed, man.
Yeah, it is impressive. And to be clear, that like he was talking about, there's a dialog box. You can actually type in what you want Photoshop to try and do with the selected area. This is pretty cool. And I imagine this feature won't stay in beta for very long.
Yeah. Again, like one of my examples from last episode, a guy said, make my hoodie orange, and it was yellow, and it did. And then it gave him a little bit more beard hair, and it didn't look like it was all janky. It did it pretty well. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm excited to play with it more. Again, I'm not interested in like doing weird comps. But the utility of like expanding my background and like making, I can change this aspect ratio to whatever. Like, what if I have a 9:16 image and I don't have the raw anymore? And I'm like, I really want to put this on Instagram as like a 4:5. At least I could like kind of fill it, add a vignette, smooth that out a little bit. And I'd probably be able to like change like a tight portrait. That can be a super cool image now.
I like the implementation of this. I like it because this isn't one of those scenarios like the launch of ChatGPT, where people everywhere are going, the world is ending, AI is going to destroy us all. This genuinely just feels like another one of those tools, an evolution in Photoshop that just makes things practically faster. You already have the idea, you know what you need to get done, and you could do it with the tools that were previously there. Just like when Content Aware first launched in like CS4, you could easily replace things, but it would just take more time with the tools that were there. Again, an iteration on how fast things can get done in Photoshop. It's just going to help people do these same tasks faster. It's really actually quite nice to see this evolution.
Yeah. Man, especially for like marketing purposes, because if I have my subject correct, to have this kind of a powerful background changer is so brilliant for me. I saw another example was a bicyclist, and it was a very well shot image, really shallow depth of field, probably on like a 70 to 200 or something, but one of those like super aerodynamic like bicyclists, and they just basically selected that person, did the outline, and said, make it look like he's racing in like the Alpines, like a beautiful alpine background. And it was still completely shallow depth of field. Like the whole thing looked like it was shallow depth of field. It pretty much matched the fall off almost. Like it was pretty good. So yeah, it's interesting. Does it change photography? No, it changes making content, and it changes image making and art.
Yes.
But it does nothing to photography. Photography is a process of making an image.
Nothing to the process of photography. You can touch this, none at all, 0%. You don't even have to use Photoshop to just be totally into all of the process of photography.
Yeah. Fuji JPEG shooters, dude. I have like 5 friends who never touch Lightroom. They literally upload straight out of camera JPEGs from Fuji's. I have film only friends. They're not editing. They're just getting their stuff scanned. And so like photography is still photography.
Yes.
period. And I love
This
that.
doesn't touch photography. What
Yeah.
this does for people, honestly, there's a lot of great practical stuff. I'm actually really interested now that we're talking through some of this. I want to stick some of my like product photos into it and just like prompt it to like, I don't know, make like a weird flyer out of it. And I'm curious if it'll do text. Like if you add it, tell it to add text, because I know like Dolly just doesn't really do that very well. If you tell it to like make a flyer with text on it, the text will be super jumbled and you can't, it's just shapes basically. So I'm curious if you can basically tell it to like make a flyer for you with certain details and if it'll like produce text on a graphic or something like that. So I want to play with that.
Do me a favor, when you go to play with some of this stuff, try to make a selection like around your like a bag of coffee and try to just have it add coffee beans.
Okay.
I would be wildly interested to see. And what it'll do is on the right side of your Photoshop screen under your like channels and all that other stuff over there, it'll give you some options. It'll generally have like it'll have like a couple that you can kind of cycle through.
Oh, that's cool.
I was like adding hats to Cody's son, and like it was hilarious. I was. Do I say this? There's certain things that like it won't generate. Like I was gonna make a really funny thing because one of my best friend's wife is from Ireland, and their son is a little redheaded Irish boy, and I have this beautiful photo of him like running and having fun. He's smiling and stuff. And I wanted to add an AK to his hands and a balaclava and make like a ridiculous IRA meme. And it wouldn't even allow me to do balaclava.
Wow.
I had to go with like a snowing ski mask.
Wow.
And then it gave it like goggles and all this other silly stuff because like so there's a lot of stuff going on. I also didn't read the terms of service. I'm sure they're like taking your images that you use to
Oh, probably.
Because it prompts you something about it when you start using it. But I should probably go back and look at that honestly. But anyway,
it probably pulls from Adobe's stock images. They've got a huge pile of stock footage and images that we've had access to as Creative Cloud members for a long time now. But if I remember right, I think I don't remember if it's default off or on, an opt-in or out in Lightroom and Photoshop, whether Adobe can pull your content. And that might only be for Lightroom CC. I got to look into that because there is definitely an opt-in or out for whether Adobe can pull your stuff for AI use. Mm-hmm. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. Right on. But anyway, that was that, and it was a lot of fun. And
I will definitely play with it. It sounds super interesting, and I think there's some practical stuff that I could do with it. Yeah.
Once I started finding utility, I get excited. I'm not really excited until I'm like, what am I? Okay, yeah, it's a great meme. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty sweet.
For sure.
It's pretty rad. I have some links here for some rumors and some other gear stuff, but what else is going on with you? Are you looking to get anything made? Are you looking at shooting anything soon?
Man, what I really want to do is take the camera to the farmer's market and just do some like pretty booth product pictures while I'm there. But it's summertime, and as soon as I'm set up, basically people are starting to swarm the market. So I want a clone of me to be able to do that. Other than that, I would love. Okay, so I guess I haven't told pod listeners yet that I got a dog a couple of weeks ago. We adopted a good boy. His name is Finley. You can search him up on Instagram at _goodboyfinley. And that's just where I'll put pictures of him that I take that are nicer with some nicer equipment. Anyway, I would love to take some more pictures of him. We took him to the dog park for the first time today, and he is not great with other dogs. So we don't get much time before somebody else shows up and I have to put him on the leash and get him out of there because he kind of goes nuts and he's not great mixing, mingling. But if I find a morning where I have time, I really want to get him out there because I can let him go, and he's good at coming back if I call him. And I would love some shots of him like just racing as fast because I can't catch that dog if if he's gone and I have to catch him. He's a fast boy, so I want to catch some really good action shots with him. That's on the horizon. Whether or not I get time in the next week to do that, I don't know, but that's what I really want to do very, very soon.
Yeah. Again, you're talking to the only thing I actually like doing with cameras is taking photos of dogs. So.
Yeah. I'm stepping into your world here. Yeah, maybe that's for my prompt next time.
That's where I live. Yeah. Let's do dog photos for, well, July's my birthday month. So let's do dogs for July if y'all are hearing that now. But yeah, so that's dope. I'd like to get out and shoot Oscar and Yoshi here a little bit more and try to get some more really good photos. Update on the photo that I gifted the folks here. They got it double matted and framed. Gorgeous picture.
Nice.
hanging up on the wall with all the family photos. So that was
very
pretty cool.
But
yeah, so I guess we'll get into some gear stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sony has pre-orders for a CF Express Type A 2 terabyte card.
Wow. Monster.
Jeez. Monster card. And it is going to be, let me make sure I get this right. So 1,920 gigabytes. And I think it's something like $1,400.
Yeah. Holy smokes.
I bought my 160 gig CF Express Type A card for like $400 or something,
Yeah.
$400 and something dollars. So that makes sense. But I still am not sure how I feel about having like that big of a capacity because I'll never dump the card and I'll never format it. But if I was on like a project, like a proper project, imagine having two of those in an A7 IV and making in redundant shooting and knowing that like unless this camera melts, which it could because you're using two very hot cards inside of it, but unless this like gets thrown into lava or into the ocean, like I probably am good and I can shoot for like several days.
Yeah. I shoot with two 128 gig SD cards in the A7 IV, and I remember when I was in New Orleans dumping that card every day because I was doing both photo and video. But if I was only filling up about 100 gigs a day, I could get away with an entire week of shooting in New Orleans, whatever the hell I wanted. But then again, if I knew I had 2 terabytes, I'd probably just shoot a lot more. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a toss-up, right? I'm curious. Yeah. Obviously, I don't have like $2,800 to put two of these in my camera, but it's a wildly compelling thing. Like if I knew that I had like a really serious project and I have like 10 days in the back country and all I have is like a solar and a battery bank, I can shoot for like 10 days, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine there's some wildlife shooters that are shooting bursts all the time that might do these like 10-day backpack trips and just absolutely blow through their cards. This might be for you if that's you. Oof.
Yeah, so that's super cool. I like to see that. That just means that hopefully in a couple more years, this stuff is like super cheap, and I can get like a half terabyte or a terabyte card for like $250, and then I'd love to have like 2 512 gig cards.
Yeah,
I think that would be a vacation for me. Like I'd be able to just keep a card in.
I have to imagine where it'll go that direction in the not too distant future, because SSDs are pretty cheap these days. Just throwing, a terabyte or two in a computer, you can do it for like less than $100. So I have to imagine this stuff is going to get cheaper. But it doesn't help that Sony is the first. Is it the first 2 terabyte for that Type A card?
This is like the first 2 terabyte any card, as far as I know. I don't think they have a Type B card that's 2, and Type B has been around for a lot longer. I don't know that I know they have 1 terabyte SD cards, but I don't think they have 2 terabyte SD cards.
Yeah.
Like,
there's not a ton of brands out there making these, so it may take longer than you want, but I imagine it'll come down from 1,400 in a couple of years.
Well, Angel Bird made the 1 terabyte card recently, and that's like $400.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I don't know how reliable those are. Angelbird is a company that people use on their Atomos recorders all the time for
Yeah.
SSDs and stuff like that. So like they've been around. I think they made red cards, or maybe they didn't make red cards, and I'm making that
I
up.
wonder if
Maybe
Sony manufactures these themselves.
these are Sony Tough cards. These 2
Yeah,
terabytes.
okay.
Yeah. And I mean they got Sony money. They can make anything. If
Yeah.
it's within physics, I think they're figuring it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super cool. I'm getting to the point where I need to cycle out some of the SD cards I've been using if I need them for real shoots. I run, I think it's right here. I have this little Pelican book, and right now I have 3 sets of V90 cards, three pairs, right? So I always had a pair for each of my cameras and then 1 backup pair. But now I'm getting like one of the SanDisk like setups is pretty long in the tooth. I just moved over to my Lexar set, and then I have Sony Tough cards as well. I've knock on wood, I've had good luck with all 3 brands, but
Yeah, me too.
it's I think it's about time. I'd like to get at least a pair of 256 gig cards or something, because it's just like pretty clutch to have hefty data, especially when you're doing a lot of 4K 60. But
For sure.
but
What we
yeah,
got next?
the next was so it looks like the A6700 and the 7200 F4G is going to be announced on July 12th. That's really exciting, and some information that a reader of Sony Alpha Rumors told Andre Pizzini was the dimensions that they said it was bigger than the A6600 match the A7C. So they're thinking it's potentially an A7C body with an APS-C sensor, which is pretty exciting. But I can't remember, does your A7C have a joystick?
No, it doesn't.
That's
one of my gripes.
I do hope it has a joystick. We'll see what happens. And if not, then I hope the A7C too has a joystick.
Yeah, I've mostly gotten used to it, but it sucks not having the joystick.
Work it out. Sorry, important message. But yeah, I think I can get used to it. Like I said, like if that's my only gripe and it's doing everything else, I think I just got to get over it. Because I'd like a second camera that can shoot 4K 120. But yeah, it's pretty wild. I guess we'll see what happens. I'm really eager to see that release, and what it will do for APS-C cameras in the Sony lineup and APS-C lenses potentially, because I'd like to see what they might do, if they would do something like make really small, good, fast lenses, or if they might just make some of their like G primes a little bit more readily. Like it'd be really cool to see a non-G Master 24 mil that's like $700.
Right.
Because like I don't want to spend over $1,000 on a 24 mil. I owned the 24 G Master for a little while. I got it off of my buddy for like $900. It's a stellar deal, and it actually came with the Peter McKinnon Polar Pro ND I still use today, so it worked out pretty well. But it was just such an expensive lens that I was like, I could trade this for anything that I would use more. So it'd be it's $650 to $800 for like a really solid 24 would be sweet.
Yeah. And this, I mean, the A6000 line of cameras, there's a huge, I don't know if fan base is the right word, but a lot of people, a lot of users for that entire system, lineup of systems. So there's been a lot of excitement about the next iteration of this, and it'd be nice to see it have a joystick. It really would. I think there's a lot to look forward to, but I guess we'll see in the next week and a half.
Yeah, I'd just like to see it touch the prosumer line. Like I said, like the A6600 was close, but like I'd like to see a Cinetone. I'd like to see, some of these things that make it just under an A7 IV, right? I wonder, the A7C2 might not have 2 card slots, but would a prosumer APS-C sensor benefit from one? I don't think they would do it, but it would be really cool. It might warrant an $1,800 price tag. You know what I mean? To have like a prosumer body. I don't know. It'd be cool.
I don't know either. We can assume it's probably going to have the AI focusing chip.
Yeah.
So does that leave room for a second card slot? I don't know.
I mean, the sensor's smaller, so there's room right there, right? If it's an A7C. yeah, I don't know. It seems cool. Again, I'm still super stoked about that 70 to 200. It's dope. The next one I got here is the Sigma 14 1.8 will be announced in like
Yeah.
4 days or whatever. That'll
Yeah.
just be an interesting release. It's going to be massive. It's
It's
like
gonna be huge.
it's like over half a noct. It's like
it was like over 1,100 grams,
it's
which
like
is a
11
big chunky boy.
It's 1160. It's over 2.5 pounds. It's like 2.567 pounds or something crazy.
Yes.
But we're talking 14.18.
Yep.
Just super fast, super cool.
Monster of a lens. This
Oh,
is
sorry.
Astro Dream lens.
1.4.
1.4. Yeah, I knew what you
yeah.
meant. Yes.
Yeah, 14.14, dude.
Yes.
Yeah, actually
Sigma's-
breaking.
Yeah, sorry. Sigma is familiar back on the DSLR lineups. They're familiar with producing these kinds of lenses. I don't know if they particularly had a 14-1.4. That might be the widest and fastest lens combo
Sigma did the
ever
one.
made.
Sigma did the 1.8.
1.8.
So they
yes.
did make the super fast 14 that I think at the time was the world's fastest ultra wide.
And here they are doing it again.
Yeah, and they're like, hold my two-hearted. I'm gonna go ahead and do another one of those.
I have to imagine this is probably going to be like $1,500, maybe more. Do they touch 2,000?
I don't know if they touch 2,000. This thing's gotta. If this is cheaper than $1,500, it might be a buy for me.
Yeah, because
like
there's gonna be a lot of Astro people who are going to jump on this thing.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be freaking nuts. Like I like 14 because it's insane.
It is
but
fun to play with.
I've been keeping my Rokinon that I use like once a year just because
Yeah.
it's cheap enough, and I have an MC11 adapter that I haven't sold, so like I can
Of
run
course.
it. But that's something I want to see. I can't wait to see its close focusing bokeh. I can't wait to see like how it has to be like amazing performance, right? There's no way that they can release this thing with the spec and not have like sharp corners and like good CA control for Astro guys, or else people would be like, this is
Right.
cool, but I have to stop it down to 2 anyway. So why wouldn't I get the half-sized 1.8?
Well, that's going to be one of the secondary benefits of it being, well, I don't know if there's any other benefit, but to being so large, the byproduct of it being so large is that having so much glass, there's got to be some measurable control for that.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see. I have to also imagine it's probably going to be a bulbous front element because they've produced
Absolutely.
that before. I think it was the 21.4 Sigma 21.4 I had on the DSLR for Nikon. It was a bulbous front element and it was nice. But there was definitely moments where I wished I could put a filter on without having to buy one of those big contraptions that fit on the end of that. And
Yeah.
But you know what? There's trade-offs to everything, right? 14-1.4, that is a huge, just a monumental lens for astrophotography, low light photography. I mean, taking that into a wedding reception would just be a blast.
It'd be sweet if you had like a second and third shooter and you could throw somebody with that 14 for a while and get some nuts photos. I'm just gonna go through some of these rumors, or here
Sure.
are the specs. It sounds like these are pretty confirmed. The source was the Sigma teaser, so it's got a guide plate and a tripod socket, so it's definitely massive.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a thick boy. This thing, the E-mount version is 151.9 millimeters, so it's long. But it's got 11 aperture blades. The shortest shooting distance is 30 centimeters, which is close. Like that's pretty freaking close. It's not as
Yes,
close
it
as a
is.
lot of ultra wides, but like this thing is disgusting, and it's got 19 elements and 15 groups.
Wow, that is a
So-
lot of glass.
Yeah, it's just tons of glass. It's going to be really cool. The cover type lens cap, obviously. So that I think the cover type lens cap
Yep.
dictates that it's going to be bulbous. Obviously, how
Yeah.
couldn't it be?
Right.
That would be even more impressive, and it would be this big around if it didn't have a bulbous front.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be just really cool. This is like
That looks like a fun lens, honestly.
this is a lens I will rent for sure at least once to play with because it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts. But yeah, so that'll be cool. We're going to see a lot of people posting some pretty cool Astro stuff. I'm excited to see some of the review videos. Because there will just be Astro in that and like other crazy ultra wide things. if it performs like a lot of the new DGDN stuff, imagine using this lens for like inside of a car or inside other tight spaces and stuff. Like it's just going to be such a cool lens. It's so fast. Nighttime shots for movies inside of a freaking car. You don't got to do the stupid thing that they did in like Collateral where like it looks like the dome lights on the whole movie and you're like, oh, this is stupid because this is unrealistic as hell. Yeah, anyway, gonna be cool. The last one I have is probably the most exciting one for me because this just like lends my brain to thinking that the next era after the vlog era that we just got out of is going to be the APS-C era. Because Nikon is releasing a 24mm 1.7 for DX-Z cameras. That's my favorite lens. That's a 35 equivalent-ish lens for an APS-C, and it's fast as hell. 1.7 is awesome for an APS-C prime.
And its size that's going to be its selling point.
It's a pancake.
Yeah,
it's a basically. 35. What would that end up being? Like a 2.5 probably equivalent, a 35 2.5 full frame equivalent pancake lens, dog. I want to get a Nikon F30 now if it had a freaking EVF. Like I might have to get a Z50 and play around because that's super cool. That would be a pocketable camera. That's a the Z30 is tiny. And you put what is probably going to be a decently sharp, okay-ish fast lens on it. I don't know. That would be smaller than a equivalent size Fuji with the 23 1.4 or 2 or F2 because the F2 is the small one. This looks smaller than that. This is awesome. This might be a thing that happens, and it's less than $300. It's like $276.
That was a big deal to see that price point. It's like $279 or something like that.
Their Z30 and Z50 is more expensive than Canon's R100, but if you didn't need an EVF, if you were kind of like doing a little bit of video stuff and you could deal with the Z30, I think the Z30 with this prime lens is a way better deal than you can get at Canon right now, because the cheapest you get is a 50, which is going to be a 70 or almost an 80mm lens because it's a 1.6 times crop factor on Canon. So you're looking at like a 80mm like for the cheap lens. You can jump in here, get a 35, which is, whether you like 35 or not, a way better all-around fast prime than an 80 at least, right? Like, you can fight all day long if you prefer 35, 40, or 50. They're all pretty solid. Mm-hmm. But they don't make a 50 1.7 for $300. So here you go. No. This is going to be a 36mm equivalent, but brilliant. Just brilliant. I like actually love this. Like I'm thinking about buying this, like very seriously.
Now, if Nikon can produce their version of the R100, just an all-around super accessible, affordable bundle with that lens, they'll do it. I mean, they'll sell like hotcakes just over and over again. They will win it.
I just had a revelation. I kind of want a ZFC.
Yeah, dude, that camera is so... I mean, I would love it, honestly.
A ZFC with this 24 1.7, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know. And the colors on that thing are nice, dude.
That's a Fuji killer.
I kind of want one of each. They're so nice.
I'm not crazy, right? This is the Z. Yeah. I had to like... Yeah. I was like, what am I missing here that this doesn't make sense? This is awesome. Yeah. That would be the coolest camera.
I think that Jared took that to Italy and made a bunch of cool images. I like actually really cool images that were like, oh, this is, I mean, you wouldn't take it for a wedding, but you want to travel. It's small. It does what you need it to do. And with a lens like that, you can jump in for pretty cheap.
Wait, did he do it on with the 24mm? Like
no. When the ZFC launched, he went to Italy. It's fine. It performs just fine for stuff that isn't basically like wedding and sports.
Dude, if you could find a used one for like $600 and buy this lens, sub 1,000, I'd run that right now. I'd literally daily drive that. I run a 35 on a full frame right now. Give me that camera.
What hey, is Nikon, if you're listening to brand
this,
new?
Like $898.
That's not terrible. Now, if they did like a even lighter version of the ZFC for like $599, bundle it with this lens, you're at like $700-800. They would kill it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
That's super cool.
Because that
Wow.
ZFC, I don't know what I don't care what your preferences are, whether you like an all blacked out camera. Seriously, like the silver with the color, honestly, like it's for me. I love it. I wish I had one. I kind of do.
I think the ZFC is better looking than the Fujifilm cameras. Because in my brain I think of the Lost World of Jurassic Park, which is the first time I saw like a film Nikon camera in a movie, and I went, oh, that's so cool. Look at that photographer guy who is, freaking Vince Vaughn. but yeah, it's down to $5.95 on sale right now.
That's pretty good.
I should find a used. I might do that just for memes and make some content of it. Because how cheap could I get one used? Imagine getting it for like $700.
Yeah.
Or even like, lowball somebody at 600 and get one. be at like $900 for a super sick camera.
It's a ZFC, right? Like you probably could.
They're old. They're freaking old. But yeah, anyway.
That's awesome. Now I'm going to ask you if you'd heard of this one. This camera that is supposedly releasing,
the Pixie.
No. The Flashback 135. I didn't read this entire article. I tried to get the bullet points. Basically, it's a disposable camera for the digital age. And what I mean by that is it's a digital camera that doesn't give you access to the 27 images it can take at one time for 24 hours. And I really wish I could have read this whole article to tell you more about why you can't access those images. But let's just talk about the concept for a second. A camera, I don't know how much this costs. Probably a couple $100. It's not significant in any way. It's a fixed lens. It's probably slowish. I don't know. 35 mil. It looks like a disposable camera. A digital camera that you have a set of images, 27. For some reason, you can't pull your images off. There's no LCD screen. You can't see. There's just a little viewfinder. I don't know if it's electronic or optical. Probably optical for economic reasons. How do you feel about that? A camera that you can't see your images until the next day, even though it's digital.
Discipline yourself.
Yeah.
And not look at them.
I mean, it sounds fun to me. If it was like $200 or something.
If your brother-in-law didn't tell me in college to just like do that with an SD card, and I did it, and it was the same exact thing, because Jack 100% said that to me back when I was shooting my 70 actually. Yeah. And was like, yeah, I just would take photos and not look at them for like a month, and then I'll look at them.
Now that you say that, I remember a time before there were flip screens when all LCD screens that were there, just you couldn't do anything about. You couldn't turn them off. And I remember people in forums recommending to folks to gaff tape over their LCD screens, not look at them, so it reduces chimping, and you just get better because you spend time, you take the photos, you go look at them on the computer when you get home, when you no longer have access to wherever you were in that time. And if they sucked, you really seriously had to consider why and do better next time.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's an exercise on how to get good for sure.
Yeah.
What's interesting is like chimping is even down because you see exactly what your image looks like now, right? Mm-hmm. So chimping was crucial, I would say, back when it was just DSLRs, because like, did I even have the right exposure? Like, sure, it metered, but like, is this a mess? Do I need to adjust this? And then back when you didn't have a lot of latitude, you couldn't like pull up shadows and stuff like that crazy, you know? But like, so I already do it. I take a bunch of photos and then I wait. Like I haven't looked at the photos that I've taken of Pumpkin and you know, Cody's kid yet, because I'll throw them in probably tomorrow or something, or maybe even after this, and we'll see what happened. But
I don't know. I saw this one and I thought, you know what, it's probably going to sell to basically nobody I know, and I might see like one post about it at some point, and I'll think, that's cool. I might never buy it, but you know,
it looks cool. I'm looking at the like Kickstarter or whatever, and like that's dope if that's what you're into. I would much rather grab like even a 6-year-old like Canon G10 or whatever, if you just want like cool party flash images like that, and then just do the same thing. Just it's like that part of it's just the gimmick, right? If this is how the photos look, like if these are legitimate photos taken from the camera on their Kickstarter, those look pretty good. I like these like party images and these guitar images and stuff. That looks pretty solid. If it's just fixed like that and they don't look like total trash, sweet. Did it say? I didn't see how much it was. You can get in
price.
for $125 Australian. Flashback.
That's actually cheaper American, right? That would be like
I think so.
$80 or something like that.
It's, 89. Yep.
Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's neat. But again, what would happen if the what would happen if those images are just like the most perfect images or not even taken from the camera? Like what if they're just bad?
Yeah.
Like what if they're like 12-year-old 2 megapixel camera images?
Totally could be.
So $90 to be wasted.
Here, and I'll play devil's advocate for myself on this one, because I could also recommend you pick up a film camera and just shoot some film if you're into waiting 24 hours to see some pictures. Like, there's still places that develop film, and if they don't develop it themselves, they send it off. You can still totally do it.
Well, there's like some companies putting out cheaper options for film now. Like in the last couple of weeks, a couple of other like new startup companies and stuff like that, like these newer guys making film. They're
Ilford too are still making newer, cheaper film options.
Yeah. Well, there's people that like don't have a pedigree who are making like really good, cheap. Like I saw a video. I saw the thumbnail and stuff, and it was just like, finally cheap film again, and it was talking about a new film stock that came out, and like the photos look fine. So that's an option. I'm still kind of shooting. My camera's right there. I have 2 more frames I have to capture with that camera before I can throw a new load in. But I think why, when you could spend $90 and get like a sick point and shoot, and then you could just use your normal camera. I wouldn't back a gimmick thing, because chances are if it feels gimmicky, you're going to treat it like a gimmick, and then maybe you'll never use it.
Yes. Also, I just want to make clear, I do not recommend anyone go and back this Kickstarter. I don't recommend anyone back any Kickstarters. That's just my personal thing. I don't like it. I've seen too many Kickstarters fail. However, there's plenty of brands out there who do launch through Kickstarter who eventually have a track record of actually producing what they say they're going to make. If this thing you can get into for $90 when it does launch, which probably isn't the case, it'll probably be like 120 US when it launches, if it launches. Still, that's a pretty accessible price for something even gimmicky.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a thing. I just like that people are photographing. Somebody shared in the Discord I talked about last time that their daughter is playing with an old Canon point and shoot and starting to get into it, and they're really young, and he's excited about it because she really likes it. And I went, love to see it. Yeah, I mean, I've seen photos of your daughter with your old camera, right? And you've been
actually, it was my buddy who offered it to us. D3100, I think.
Oh, cool.
And the battery is probably shot, because I'm sure she only took like 20 shots and it went from full to basically dead. But she's got an 18 to 55 and a 55 to 200, and she took a picture of a blue jay in a tree with it all the way out to 200. Stabilized. It's like, she did it, and she was so proud of herself. I'm like, yes, the 6-year-old is on to good things.
Hell yeah. That would be worth buying a new battery if that's the case. That's pretty cool.
Yes, absolutely.
That's pretty sick. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got. Had some AI stuff, had some gear stuff. Excited to see these updates happen. Thanks for listening. Remember, we are doing Unseen Worlds for our Photoshare, and that'll probably be... if it's not the 25th we talk about it, it'll be like the 2nd of July where we'll do those. So you either have 1, 2, 3 weeks, or you have 4 weeks. But we'll get to it and hopefully share some pretty wicked images again.
Yeah, should be fun.
Cool. If you're still listening, go ahead and sub on this YouTube channel if that's where you're at. If you're listening on Spotify or whatever, give us a review. We'd like to hear if you hate us. That's, because then I can just, not ever read that again and not care and move on my merry way and know that you listened to an entire episode of my podcast before you decided to say that you hate me. So thanks for the analytics. No, I'm just kidding. But I appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time, or you'll listen to us next time.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.